Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagunaragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sya Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyanajana Shalaka Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namo Gorva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Samvambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govindam Vidam Ujjalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Baranam Balarka Chelan Shitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Baranam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhantan Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Manditam Shubharam Marika Sharanam Yashishwara Shidaram Mansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurachavishe Namah. So starting today, we're reading Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban das Thakur. And this translation is done by Sriman Sarvabhavana Prabhu. Now this Sarvabhavana Prabhu is, he's not the same Sarvabhavana Prabhu. It's a different Sarvabhavana Prabhu. I met him, I know him, and he has his family has some relationship also with Guru Maharaj. So I'm going to start here with this is by Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban das Thakur. This is Adi-khanda, chapter 1, summary of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya. Ajanulambita bujo kanakavadato sankirtanaika pitaro kamalaya taksho vishvambaro dvijavaro jugadharma balo bande jagat priya karo karunavataro namastrikala satyaya jagannatha sutaya ja sabrityaya saputraya Sakala Traya Te Namaha Avatirno Sa Karunyo Parichino Sad Ishvaro Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Dvo Bharato Bhaje. I worship their lordship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, whose long arms extend down to their knees, whose beautiful complexions have the color and radiance of molten gold. They have initiated the congregational chanting of the names of Lord Krishna, and their elongated eyes are like red lotuses. They are the maintainers of the universe, the topmost of the Brahmins, the guardians of religious principles for this age, the munificent benefactors of all living entities, and the most merciful and compassionate incarnations of Godhead. O Lord, you are the eternal truth, unconditioned by past, present, and future, and yet you have now appeared as the son of Sri Jagannath Mishra. I offer repeated obeisances unto you, along with your intimate servitors, your unalloyed devotees, your sons, your renounced Goswami disciples, and the devotional process of chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna, and your consort, Sri Bhu Devi, who appeared as Sri Vishnu Priya, Sri Devi, who appeared as Sri Lakshmi Priya, and Sri Leela Devi, also known as Neela or Durga, who manifested Navadip Dham, and the two Gadadhars. One is Sri Gadadhar Pandit, the expansion of Srimati Radharani, and the other is Sri Gadadhar Bhatta from South India, who is Sri Rangadevi, and Damodar, Narahari, Ramananda, Jagadananda, and all your unlimited associates. I worship the two brothers, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who are the embodiments of magnanimity. By their inconceivable potency, they are the transcendental, eternal, supreme controllers of all. They have now descended to the material world. All glories to Gaurasundar, the supremely powerful Lord of pure transcendence. He has an aura of molten gold with lotus petal eyes, and his long graceful arms extend to his knees. While he sings the glories of the Lord, he dances in various pleasing postures as his heart is inundated by the ecstatic emotions of the devotional mellows. All glories to the moon-like Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He is the fully independent Supreme Person, always engaged in transcendental pastimes. He is the Lord of the universe, the supreme controller of all controllers, and the personification of transcendence. All glories to the devotees of Sri Gaurachandra. All glories to the ecstatic dancing of the Lord's intimate associates. In the beginning, I offer my humble obeisances to the feet of the loving confidential devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya. I then offer my obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He is incarnated in Navadip, and he is known as Vishvambar. That same Supreme Personality of Godhead has declared in the Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam, worship of my devotees is superior to worship of me. Lord Krishna said to Uddhava, O Uddhava, serving my devotees is many times better than worshiping me. Therefore I offer my worshipful prayers unto the devotees of the Lord before I begin to write this book. By this act may my present endeavor be successful. I offer my respectful obeisances to my worshipable Lord and spiritual master, Sri Nityananda Rai, by whose mercy the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya became spontaneously manifest. With 1,000 tongues, we should incessantly glorify the Supreme Lord Balaram. Because of his 1,000 mouths as Ananta Sesa constantly glorify Lord Krishna. Just as priceless gems are kept in secure custody, so also the invaluable jewel of knowledge about Krishna's pastimes is kept safely in the mouth of Ananta Deva. Therefore, the tongue which initially glorifies Balaram will automatically be qualified to vibrate the transcendental pastime of Sri Chaitanya. The Supreme Lord Haladar holds his 1,000 hoods like snakes. He is a gigantic figure and the source of all inspiration. As Nityananda, he is fully transcendental and eternally existent, intoxicated by the nectar of Sri Chaitanya. Whoever sings or hears about Nityananda's supramundane character is offered the supreme shelter of Lord Chaitanya. Mahesh and his consort, Parvati Devi, take great pleasure in eulogizing the object of their love, Shankarshan, Nityananda Prabhu. In the midst of 1,000,000 fresh young maidens, the pure devotee Sri Seva and his consort pour out nectarine devotional hymns to Lord Shankarshan. All this is revealed in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Balaram is worshipped by the entire Vaishnava world with songs of praise. Balaram dances with his gopis in Vrindaban, and their rasa dance is the pinnacle of sublimity. The Puranas describe that Balaram performs his rasa dance during the 2 months of spring, Madhu and Madhava. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, verses narrating this subject are spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. Balaram spent the moonlit nights of the months of Madhu and Madhava with the cowherd damsels in the supramundane abode of Vrindaban. The place was set aglow with the rays of the moon. The lotus and kadamba flowers bloomed freely under the influence of the moon's rays, and a soft breeze circulated their scent. In the groves on the bank of the Yamuna, Balaram danced with the gopis, increasing their conjugal mood. The Supreme Lord Balaram, like an exquisite gem decorated by the cluster of gopis, performed his pleasurable pastimes. He behaved like Indra's elephant, Airavata, the controller of many she-elephants. The Gandharvas observed the rasa dance and offered their prayers. The sound of kettle drums rose from the heavens. The demigods joyously showered flowers upon them, and the Gandharvas and sages worshipped the Supreme Lord Balaram with verses, praising his activities. The sages unequivocally denounce association with women, yet they sing hymns in praise of Balaram's rasa dance with his cowherd damsels. The demigods attended Balaram's rasa dance to shower flower petals. They know that there is no difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram Haladar. The transcendental qualities of Balaram are obscure in the four Vedas, but the Puranas describe them boldly. What power do I have to describe them? However, out of ignorance, some people disregard the Puranas and reject Balaram's rasa dance as inauthentic. The two brothers, Lord Krishna and Balaram, performed the Rasa Krida pastimes with the gopis in the same place of Vrindaban. Once, on the radiant full moon night, at the end of the Shiva Ratri Brata, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram were playing holy in the midst of the beautiful maidens of Vrindaban. Krishna and Balaram were both pleasingly decorated with the finest jewelry, sandalwood pulp, wildflower garlands, and exquisite clothes. The fortunate gopis sang sweetly their hearts and songs, enraptured by love for Krishna and Balaram. As Krishna and Balaram praised the beauty of the nightfall, the moon and the stars appeared. The fragrance of the Arabian jasmine intoxicated the bumblebees, and a light breeze carried the aromas of white lilies and lotus flowers. Considering that very moment to be appropriate, Krishna and Balaram began their pleasurable dalliances. They sang together for the pleasure of all living entities, their voices rising and falling melodiously. If a person, after reading Srimad Bhagavatam, is not affectionately inclined towards Lord Balaram, then he is rejected by the Supreme Lord Vishnu and his devotees. In the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, a non-believer is a javana, a barbarian. He is destined to suffer in hell birth after birth. Faithless persons who are like eunuchs make emotional gesticulations, foolishly challenging which scripture describes the rasa dance of Balaram. Who is so sinful that even after reading the scriptures, he cannot accept the truth, but misinterprets the real meaning and gives his own distorted understanding? Lord Balaram is the abode of Lord Chaitanya's deep affection. Thus, offense at Balaram's lotus feet destroys all possibility of salvation. Sri Balaram appears in various forms, along with all the incarnations of Lord Krishna, thus manifesting different characteristics in his loving service to the Lord. In his incarnation as Lakshman, the younger brother of Lord Ramachandra, Balaram enacted the role of the Lord's servitor.
Maharaj ki jai.
Yet in his manifestation with Lord Krishna, Balaram serves him in every respect as a friend and as a brother by fanning him, putting him to sleep, glorifying him with Vedic invocations, and expanding himself as his house, umbrella, attire, jewelry, and seat. In this, traer otro agua. Ese tiene sabor extraño. Okay. In the Stota Ratra 37, O Lord, your direct partial expansion, Ananta Sesa, is the source of all the various ingredients for your service in the transcendental realm of Vaikuntha. Ananta Sesa is famous because he is manifest as your residence, bed, throne, shoes, clothes, jewelry, etc. When shall I see you with Lakshmi Devi seated upon the throne of Ananta Sesa? Ananta Sesa's partial expansion is the mighty Sri Garuda, whose satisfaction is derived from acting as the Lord's carrier in every pastime. Ananta's devotees include Brahma, Shiva, the four Kumaras, Sri Vyasadeva, Sukadev Goswami, and Narad Muni. Gracias. Okay.
Yo la probé, bueno, no de su vaso, ¿no? Pero no del vaso de...
Está bien. His glorious qualities are unlimited. Okay. Ananta Sesa's partial expansion is the mighty Sri Garuda, whose satisfaction is derived from serving as the Lord's carrier in every pastime. Ananta's devotees like Brahma, Shiva, and the four Kumaras, Srila Vyasadeva, Sukadev Goswami, and Narad Muni. His glorious qualities are unlimited and are not fully understood by anyone. He is original personality, the greatest mystic, the Supreme Lord, and the greatest devotee of the Vaishnavas. Thus far you have heard about the wonderful services performed by Ananta Sesa. Now hear about his great opulence. Ananta Sesa is enthroned in the lower planetary system of Patala as his own source and repose. All worship him as his 1,000 mouths continuously taste the unlimited nectar of Krishna Prema. In the court of Brahma, Narad Muni plays on his veena, and with well-composed verses he sings the wonderful glories of Ananta. Is it humanly possible to know the supramundane nature of Ananta Dev? Just by his glance he sets in motion the three modes of material nature that are the cause of the world's creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Although he is one, he supports the entire variegated material cosmic manifestation himself within the pores of his person. He is the beginningless and eternal. Other than Lord Shankarshan, Ananta Sesa, who can offer shelter to persons devoid of all material aspirations? He is the support upon which the material world manifests and acts. That Supreme Lord, the cause of all causes, has appeared in his sublime spiritual form. He is the most powerful. In comparison, the power of a lion is insignificant. He performs pure transcendental pastimes to capture the hearts of his dear devotees, and he destroys countless sins by manifesting his transcendental form. What more is there to say than this? Hearing or calling out the name of Lord Anantadev, either respectfully or accidentally, purifies one. Even a most degraded person is purified if he just tauntingly utters the name of Sri Anantadev. Anantadev's mighty potency is beyond measure. That Supreme Lord carries upon just one of his 1,000 heads the entire universe with all its living entities, mountains and rivers, and that universe appears to be only a minute atomic speck. Even if a person acquires 1,000 tongues, how can he describe the power of the omnipotent Supreme Lord? Anantadev is his own shelter and source, filled with unlimited power and strength, while residing in the lower planetary system of Vrasatala with complete ease. Born from his detachment, he holds the gigantic cosmic manifestation. This material world's creation, maintenance, and annihilation, as well as the three modes of material nature, are activated by his glance. Who can fathom Anantadeva's non-dual, transcendental, eternal, and unborn existence. Only out of mercy towards the living entities, the Lord manifests his supramundane spiritual form while he performs his variegated pastimes. All living entities reside within that transcendental form. The mighty Lord Nisringadev represents but a wave in the ocean of the Lord's unlimited pastimes, which satisfy the hearts of his devotees. Ananta Dev's unlimited names, when heard or chanted by anyone in any manner, immediately sever the noose of innumerable births and deaths. Thus, the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord always appreciate those who glorify him. Ananta Sesa is the supreme destination of the entire universe. His holy name is the only means for the redemption of the living entities. The Lord holds upon his head the unlimited material nature, along with its mountains and oceans, simply for its protection and maintenance. The entire universe is but a speck upon one of his 1,000 hoods, and because of his unlimited strength, he does not feel the burden in the slightest. Lord Ananta Dev, the original Supreme Personality and maintainer of the entire cosmic manifestation, incessantly sings in glorification of Lord Krishna. He continuously describes every aspect of the Lord's divine attributes. Lord Krishna is eternal, and his ever-expanding attributes are unlimited. Therefore, he can never be fully described or glorified. However, the ability of Ananta to glorify the Lord is also unlimited, and eternally he is engaged in description of the Lord's qualities. In their divine relationship, neither is ever victorious. Even today, Ananta Sesa's 1,000 mouths continuously sing the glories of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. How wonderfully Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram compete with each other. Brahma, Shiva, other demigods, and the perfected sages look on, feeling great exhilaration. The eternal eulogies of Anantadev pursue the ever-expanding elusive shores of Lord Krishna's ocean of qualities. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, O Narada, I, Brahma, and your elder Sanaka, and other sages cannot even fathom the extent of this material nature. What to speak of knowing the Supreme Lord's spiritual potencies. Anantadev, the origin of all demigods, is unable to exhaustively glorify the Supreme Lord's transcendental opulence and potencies with his 1,000 mouths. Therefore, how is it possible for ordinary mortals to understand these divine potencies? Anantadev is himself the master of unlimited attributes, and he resides in Rasatala simply to support the vast material creation. In the court of Brahma, Narad Muni plays upon his veena and glorifies the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord. Brahma and his associates are stunned in ecstasy upon hearing the supramundane qualities of the Supreme Lord. All worship Narad Muni since he sings in description of these qualities. I have also been moved to write a few phrases in praise of the unlimited potencies of Lord Nityananda, Anantadev, and I humbly request all of you to develop a loving devotional mood towards the Lord. Those who desire to cross over the dangerous ocean of material existence and drown in the ocean of devotional ecstasy may take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Close the door, please. I pray to the merciful Vaishnava devotees of the Lord to fulfill the yearning of my heart. May I serve my Lord Balaram birth after birth, just as Dvija, Vipra, and Brahma, Brahmana are different names for the same person. Similarly, Nityananda, Ananta, and Balaram are different names for the same supreme person, for the same supreme personality. My Lord Nityananda Prabhu appeared within my heart and instructed me to narrate the transcendental qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this book. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are revealed by Nityananda's mercy only, because his personal expansion in Ananta Sesa is the storehouse of information about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna's pastimes. Although Sri Ananta Sesa is the embodiment of Krishna Kirtan, I have been able to offer only a humble prayer in his honor. Hearing Lord Chaitanya's qualities and pastimes can clean away all material contamination. Such pastimes are revealed only through a pure devotee's grace, for who else can know the nature and pastimes of Lord Chaitanya? Even in the Vedas, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are a hidden mystery. Therefore, I have compiled only first-hand accounts taken directly from the lips of the associates of the Lord. I see no beginning or end to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. They are eternal and unlimited, and only the Lord's grace gives me the potency to compose them. I am simply Lord Chaitanya's mouthpiece, repeating as he desires, just like a doll moved by some unseen hand. I throw myself at the feet of all pure Vaishnava devotees, so they may cleanse me of my offenses. O my brothers, please listen very attentively to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. The transcendental pastimes Lord Chaitanya performs with his devotee associates. The ecstatic pastimes of Lord Chaitanya have been divided into three periods: Adi, Madhya, and Antya, or Sesa, early, intermediate, and later. So later can be called Antya or Sesa. The early period includes a description of the Lord's education, and the intermediate portion reveals Mahaprabhu's pastimes of conjugal chanting. The concluding portion describes the Lord's pastimes as a sannyasi and Nilachala Orissa. From there, he allocated to Nityananda the mission of preaching in Bengal. The pious Sri Jagannath Mishra, Chaitanya's father, lived in Navadip. Like Vasudeva, he conscientiously performed his spiritual duties. His devout and faithful wife, Srimati Sachi Devi, was a second Devaki, the beloved mother of everyone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, appeared in the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi, and as Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he became the most precious possession of everyone's heart. The Adi-khanda begins by describing the appearance of Lord Chaitanya on an auspicious full moon evening in the month of Falgun, just as the moon went into eclipse. The tumultuous chanting of Lord Hari's holy name filled all directions, inspiring everyone to sing together. The Supreme Lord Chaitanya was born amidst the chanting. The Adi-khanda also describes the Lord's numerous childhood pastimes. Lord Chaitanya reveals to his parents his otherwise unmanifest place of residence, the holy Dham. Moreover, as they stare in wonder, he displays the signs of divinity upon his lotus feet. In this portion of the book, one day thieves kidnap baby Nimai from his house, but he tricks them into bringing him back home. Another story narrates how the Lord ate all the foodstuffs offered to Vishnu in the house of Jagadish in Hiranyanakadasi day. Yet another story describes the Lord sitting upon a pile of contaminated cooking pots, using this situation to instruct his mother in philosophy. In the Adi-khanda, the Lord also acts like a crying baby, using his tears as a ploy to make everyone chant the holy names of Krishna. The Adi-khanda discusses the Lord as a child, playing with his friends as if he were Krishna in Gokula. The Lord begins his education and with little effort masters all the scriptures. The Adi-khanda narrates the disappearance of Sri Jagannath Mishra and Vishwarup's acceptance of sannyas, and how these two disasters afflicted Sachimata. Then the Adi-khanda describes the Lord's wonderful pastimes. As a student, he was pride personified before the other student scholars. Chaitanya's travels through eastern Bengal are also described here. The land becomes a place of pilgrimage by the touch of his lotus feet. Chaitanya becomes the master of all different scriptures. There is no one in the three worlds to challenge his erudition. The Adi-khanda describes the Lord sporting with his fellow students in their water pastimes in the ways of the Ganga. Then came the Lord's first marriage and the glorious disappearance of his first wife. He duly accepts a second wife, the daughter of a regal scholar. Once he appears to be sick from a disorder of the life airs and takes the opportunity to reveal the symptoms of Krishna Prema. While the Lord roams about as a great scholar, he empowers all the devotees who surrender to him. This narration of the early life of Sri Chaitanya includes a description of the immense joy upon Sachimata's face when she looks upon the moon-like blissful face and the graceful manner of a scholar This narration of the early life of Sri Chaitanya includes a description of the immense joy upon Sachimata's face when she looks upon the moonlight blissful face and the graceful manner and clothes of the Lord. Then Nimai Pandit piques the pride of a scholar who was renowned as Digvijaya, the world's conqueror. Ultimately, the Lord slashes away the scholar's material bonds. The Lord puts everyone, even his devotees, into illusion about his real identity, and he roams the streets of Navadip unknown to all. There is also a description of the Lord's pilgrimage to Gayadam and how he showers causeless mercy upon Ishwarapuri by accepting him as his spiritual master. The Adi-khanda is a reservoir of the Lord's never-ending, pleasurable pastimes. In the future, Srila Vyasadeva, the greatest of sages, will describe other pastimes. However, herein I reveal the early pastimes of the Lord up to the time he returns from his visit to Gayadam. In the Madhya-khanda, the Lord's... So what's happening here is a summary of what's going to be in the Chaitanya Bhagawat in this first chapter of Adi-khanda. In the Madhya-khanda, the Lord's omnipotence becomes known, and gradually his devotees are identified as they collect around his lotus feet like bees around honey. Chaitanya reveals his absolute identity as Lord Narayan by sitting upon the altar of Vishnu in the houses of Sri Advaita and Srivas Pandit. Sri Chaitanya meets Nityananda Prabhu, and together the brothers make wonderful Krishna Kirtan. Then Nityananda's vision of the transcendental six-handed form of Lord Chaitanya is described. Later, the Lord exhibits his universal form to Advaitacharya Prabhu. Nityananda's Vyas Puja has been described in Madhya-khanda, along with a story of how he was slandered by some faithless atheists. Thereafter comes the description of Lord Chaitanya's manifestation as Balaram, when Nityananda gives him his plow and club. The wonderful redemption of the two reprobates, Jagai and Madai, who were later to become quite famous, is told in detail. Sachimata's vision of Sri Chaitanya in a blackish complexion and Sri Nityananda in a whitish complexion is also discussed. In the Madhya-khanda, Lord Chaitanya shows his unlimitedly opulent Mahaprakash form for 21 hours. On this occasion, he reveals the transcendental truth about himself and the internal identities of all his devotees. Thereafter, Lord Chaitanya, who is Narayan, the Lord of Vaikuntha, and the Supreme Absolute Reality, dances and chants as he narrates the truth about himself. Further, in Madhya-khanda, the Lord breaks the Chandkazi's pride, and manifesting his own spiritual potency, he engages in continuous congregational chanting, or Sankirtan. By the Lord's grace, the Chandkazi accepts devotional service. Immersed in ecstatic bliss, Sri Chaitanya, therefore, moves from village to village performing kirtan. The Lord declares the truth about himself as he exhibits his Varaha Prakash, a four-armed form, while riding around the courtyard upon the back of his devotee Murari Gupta. The Lord also eats some rice that Shuklambar had collected by begging, and performs many wonderful pastimes in his manifestation of Lord Nityananda. In the Madhya-khanda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears before the devotees in the guise of Mahalakshmi and Rukmini Devi, the Universal Mother, and breastfeeds all the devotees who are her dependent sons. The Lord chastises Mukunda for keeping bad company, and later, when he is satisfied with Mukunda's obedience, he favors him with divine grace. Then there is a narration describing the ecstatic all-night kirtan in Navadip, all-night kirtans in Navadip, which are held regularly for a complete year. Madhya-khanda describes the mock verbal fights between Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaitacharya. Only a foolish person thinks that there are actual disagreements. Then the Lord instructs his mother and simultaneously warns the whole world about the grievous consequences of offending the Vaishnava devotees. Satisfied by the prayers Satisfied by the prayers of his devotees, the Lord gives individual benedictions to each of them. Srila Haridas Thakur receives Mahaprabhu's mercy, and the Lord shows compassion upon Sridhar by drinking water from his pot. ¿Estás cansado? ¿Estás cansado? In the Madhya-khanda, Sri Chaitanya blissfully performs daily pastimes in the waters of the Ganga with all his devotees. Once he and Nityananda Prabhu visit the house of Advaitacharya for a particular reason. Here in the Madhya-khanda, there is a description of the Lord's severe chastisement of Advaitacharya, but finally the Lord shows immeasurable grace on Advaita. Then the Madhya-khanda describes how the extremely fortunate Sri Murari Gupta becomes enlightened about the identities of Lord Chaitanya as Krishna and Nityananda as Balaram, the two supreme personalities dance in ecstasy in the house of Srivas. In the Madhya-khanda, the Lord explains the entire philosophical truth about human life, using Srivas' expired son as the speaker, or dead son as the speaker. In this way, he alleviates everyone's suffering. News of this incident spreads far and wide, and by the Lord's grace, Srivas overcomes the shock of his son's death. In another story narrated in Madhya-khanda, the Lord throws himself into the Ganges, and Nityananda Prabhu and Srila Vrindaban das Thakur lift him out. Then Srimati Narayani receives a treasure desired even by Brahma and the demigods. She receives the remnants of the Lord's foodstuffs. In the final story in the Madhya-khanda is the pastime of the Lord's leaving home and accepting the renounced order of life for the salvation of every living entity. There are uncountable pastimes of the Lord in the Madhya-khanda. Srila Vyasadeva will describe later whatever remains untouched. As the Sesha-khanda opens, Vishwambar is in the sannyas order of life, and he has accepted the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He has shaven his head clean, thereby plunging Advaitacharya Prabhu into deep despondency. Sachimata's suffering is unbearable, yet she is sustained by the Lord's mercy. Nityananda, manifestation of Lord Balaram, smashes Chaitanya's sannyas danda, and thereafter the Lord conceals his real identity and goes to Nilachala Puri. Chaitanya playfully dupes Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when they first meet, but later he exhibits his six-handed form to him, Sadbhuj. The Lord mercifully graces King Pratra Paruja with devotional service and lives thereafter in the house of Kashi Mishra. During Chaitanya's stay in Puri, both Swarup Damodar and Paramananda Puri becomes eligible to serve the Lord in the most confidential relationships. Sesha-khanda also describes Chaitanya's trip through Bengal. Upon his way to Mathura and Vrindaban, he stays in Vidya Vachaspati's residence before moving on to the village of Kulia in Bengal. Millions of people gather to see the Lord upon his return to Bengal, and all who see him are liberated. Chaitanya attempts to continue upon his trip to Mathura, but after a short dalliance, he turns back to Bengal. Soon the Lord returns to Nilachala and engages there in continuous kirtan with his associates. He sends Nityananda to preach in Bengal while he remains in Nilachala with a handful of devotees. In the Sesha-khanda, the Lord and all his devotees dance enthusiastically before Lord Jagannath's chariot. Lord Chaitanya travels to Rameshwaram in South India, and his journey to Mathura through the Jharikhanda forest. Lord Chaitanya travels to Rameshwaram in South India, and his journey to Mathura through the Jharikhanda forest are also described in the Sesha-khanda. Later, the Lord showers his grace upon Ramananda Roy and reveals other divine pastimes which he had performed in his previous appearance in Mathura. In the Sesha-khanda, the magnanimous Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also graces the two brothers, Dabir Kash and Sakar Malik, by revealing his supreme identity to them. He liberates and renames them both they become the famous Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. In the Sesha-khanda, the Lord travels to Vrindavan. In the Sesha-khanda, the Lord's travels to Vrindavan are described. The sannyasis of Varanasi could not recognize the Supreme Lord because they were too critical of the Vaishnavas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thereafter returns to Nilachala Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thereafter returns to Nilachala and becomes engrossed in congregational Hari Kirtan throughout the day and night. Sri Nityananda travels throughout India as a wandering mendicant. His pilgrimages are described in Sesha-khanda. Who can understand Nityananda's unfathomable transcendental character? He roams about Mathura with ankle bells upon his feet. On Sri Chaitanya's request, he goes to Panihati and distributes devotional service, love of Krishna to everyone. Throughout his causeless mercy, he saves Nahamala Rai and other merchants of that locality. In the Sesha-khanda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's remaining 18 years in Nilachala is described. In this book, although numerous pastimes are related about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Vyasadeva will later tell them all in detail. Nityananda finds endless joy in glorifying Lord Chaitanya, and he is an unmatched expert in that field. Nityananda finds endless joy in glorifying Lord Chaitanya, and he is an unmatched expert in that art. O Lord Chaitanya, please bless me so I may receive the transcendental service of Nityananda's lotus feet. He is the Lord of the entire universe. At the very outset, I have narrated in brief the contents of this book. All of you please hear with undivided attention the pastimes of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and all of you please hear with undivided attention the pastimes of Sri Krishna Chaitanya that follow in the later chapters. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, offer my humble song at their lotus feet. Well, that's the end of the first chapter of Adi-khanda. Now, we'll sing Hari Haraya.
Tenía una pregunta, Gurudev.
¿Ah?
¿Tiempo para una pregunta?
Sí.
En una, para tener una idea sobre la etiqueta, en un artículo de Acharya Maharaj en su libro Glorifies, en uno de sus libros Glorifies, él dice que en todo momento uno debe reverenciar al maestro espiritual, incluso si uno está haciendo la puya, debe de dejar de hacer la puya y dar reverencias al maestro espiritual, y da el ejemplo de lo que pasó con Gurnanava Mirra y Minakitan Ramadas. Entonces, la pregunta es, ¿por qué nunca lo he visto yo al puyar y que deje de hacer la puya y de reverencias al maestro espiritual? ¿Cuál sería la...?
No, ese pasatiempo es cuando Nityananda Prabhu, cuando Minaketan Ramdas está en la casa de Krishnadas Kaviraj, su hermano. Entonces la idea es que no es que interrumpimos cada puja que hacemos cuando el maestro espiritual está presente, pero en ese caso El representante de Nityananda Prabhu había llegado y no le ofreció honor suficiente. Pero en el altar siempre estamos adorando a Gurudev todo modo porque estamos haciendo adoración de Gurudev junto en el altar. Entonces la situación es un poquito diferente, no interrumpimos la puja. Si el maestro espiritual está presente, pero podemos mentalmente o como sea, podemos ofrecerle nuestras reverencias cuando él entra. Pero así.
Marsh, can we get the purport in English?
Oh, okay. He asked in the book of the guidance of Srila Charya Maharaj, he mentions that one should always honor the spiritual master, even if one is doing puja. And he gives the example of when Miniketan Ramdas comes to the house of Krishnadas Kaviraj's brother. Krishnadas Kaviraj is there. And the pujari, Gunanava Mishra, he doesn't properly honor Miniketan Ramdas, and Miniketan Ramdas takes this as a slight to Nityananda Prabhu because he's known as being one of the eternal associates of Nityananda Prabhu. So I said, yes, that's correct. And in that case, Miniketan Ramdas is coming to the house there, and there's no honor given to him by Gunanava Mishra. And therefore, he says he's like a second Brahmaharshana Sutta who didn't honor Balaram. So I said, when we're doing puja on the altar, then of course we're already worshiping the spiritual master because that's part of the puja. So some mental offering, or it's not like every time that one stops the service to the deities when the spiritual master is present, but one can give some honor to him. Anyway, I'm going to now sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jarabhaya Nama Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jarabhaya Marabhaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Janardan Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhakta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Rasa Raghunath Lila Korila Prakar. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Madhya-khanda. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paramajakacharya Tara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paramajakacharya Tara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paramajakacharya Ashtatara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Rakshira Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Marga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunashi Jiva Gopal Bhadda Dasha Raghunash Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsi Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishwavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Koladvip ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai, Ganga Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Sri Vrindaban das ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kana Radha Kunda Kalindia Munaju ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari, Srila Bhakti Kushamashra Maharaj ki jai.